Hello, School Transportation Nation. Welcome to the podcast. I'm Tony Corp, publisher and president of STN, brought to you by TransFinder, the leader in school bus routing software, and our friends at IC Bus and Safely. Our guest today is John Benish Jr., Chief Operating Officer at Cook, Illinois Corporation, recently inducted into the NSTA Hall of Fame. Mr. Ryan Gray, editorial extraordinaire, will be talking to John a little bit later, but I have the always spectacular Taylor Ekbatani, the new senior editor at School Transportation News, just recently promoted. So round of applause, Taylor. Yay.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
No problem.
It's great to be on the podcast. Another week.
Another week of fun, Taylor. You know, there's a lot happening these days. But before we get to that, we have a message from Safe Fleet. Hey guys, Safe Fleet is the company that's driving safety forward and helps you prevent illegal passing. Their cutting-edge illegal passing suite protects lives by using advanced cameras and sensors to detect violators around school buses. Real-time alerts ensure swift action, while seamless connectivity enables efficient communication with authorities. Encrypted data ensures privacy, and easy integration reduces setup costs. Customizable options suit every community's needs, promoting awareness, deterring illegal passing incidents. To join the movement for safer roads to protect children today, visit safefleet.net. That's safefleet.net. All right, we're back. August issue, Taylor. I got my advanced copies at the house. They look great. You got Heather, who we interviewed last week, one of our multi-talented garage stars on there. She was awesome. Definitely excited for everybody to pick up that August issue. Guys, go to the website, stnonline.com, click on that magazine tab and go to August. It probably isn't in your mailbox yet, but it will be soon. The post office just takes a little longer to get to your office. And not that you don't have anything going on, right? Like maybe a school startup. I feel like everybody is like head down. They're like aiming towards it. Some people don't start till September, but regardless, if you're in school transportation, you're just like laser focused on getting school startup, right? Taylor, are you hearing that in the industry?
Oh my gosh, yes. I think even just in the, delay of emails that I've been getting, I've been reaching out to people and it's like people are just straight focused on getting their school startup. And I'm going to be looking at that for the October issue too. So if anyone has any challenges, we're sending our October survey out. So if you guys get that, share some challenges that you're facing at school startup. What are those hot topics? So definitely share with us. But yeah, I've been hearing that a lot, Tony.
Great. And I know we released the TSD Conference agenda, the TSD Conference, Transporting Students with Disabilities and Special Needs, down in Dallas, Frisco, Texas, November 15th through the 20th. Got a great lineup of keynote speakers. Betsy Helfrich, who's a legal expert, going to be talking about the hot spots in student transportation as it relates to special needs. We've got Ben Springer, Dr. Ben Springer, who is a PhD expert, talking about de-escalation, behavioral issues, dealing with special needs. That's always a challenge. So really great information. He's got a program that's kind of a deep dive program. So he'll do his keynote and then he's got a part 2 of his presentation. You guys will get access if you come to the show to all his materials, which is about a $600 value just if you come as an extra bonus that he's providing every attendee at the TSD conference. So getting some good value, some great training, wonderful networking. We're working hard on that. And I know, Taylor, you and Ryan were talking about adding an extra day of evacuation training hands-on. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, I think that's the biggest feedback we got last year was just so many people wanted to go to this evacuation training. And unfortunately, it was so overpopulated. It was the entire day was booked, so no one else could add. But this year we opened up a second evacuation training, which is awesome. We have a really great lineup of instructors. So Lonnie Hardin, Denny Coughlin, Deandra Nugent, as well as Aaron Harris. So all these people are coming back. They're going to be providing the training 2 days. So it's the same exact training, just opens it up for more people to get into class and get this evacuation training. It's a really great time. I sat in last year and they smoked the bus with theater smoke, and the attendees are, responsible for evacuating the children, right? They're just dolls, but you have to go into the theater smoke, and it's it's pretty thick. You wouldn't think theater smoke would be that thick, but it's coming out of the bus. So it's a really great time, Tony.
That's excellent. Yeah, guys. So don't wait. First come, first serve. If you sign up for the TSD conference now, you can also save $100 with our super early bird discount. That ends August 18th. That is right around the corner. Do not wait. TSDconference.com. If you want to get into that evacuation training, make sure and sign up to lock in your spot. There's a bit of an extra fee to participate for all the extra work our speakers are doing, but it's well worth the investment of time and energy. So I invite you to sign up for that. Also, we have our NHTSA child restraint training. It's the new program as well. So I know you're thinking maybe you had that training, but no, brand new program. Everybody has to get recertified with the new curriculum. They just redid it about, I think it was like 8 years ago. So this is brand new to everybody. We offered it last year, but I think there might be some confusion in the marketplace that, I already did it. But yeah, no, guys, better get re-upped on your NHTSA certification, child passenger safety seat. Super important. You stay legally compliant in your organization and operation. So don't hesitate to reach out to us, find out more, get signed up. We'd love to have you at the TSD conference in Dallas coming up soon. All right. Before we get to our top headlines, we've got a message from TransFinder. Guys, have you ever seen a car commercial? They're always saying that the new model is sportier, faster, better. Well, the folks at TransFinder say that's the way to look at their new and improved Service Finder solution. It has the same name, but everything about the new Service Finder is better, faster, sleeker, more intuitive. Service Finder is the next generation of fleet and asset management software. It's browser-based and will make your fleet productive and cost-effective. Service Finder reduces burdensome paperwork, tracks your costs, and will help keep you from missing critical repairs. Let's face it, buses aren't cheap. You need to keep them running efficiently and lasting longer to get the most out of your investment. To learn more about Service Finder, visit transfinder.com or email them at marketing@transfinder.com or give them a call at 800-373-3609. That's 800-373-3609.
All right, so back to the headlines. If you guys already haven't heard, the EPA is now taking applications for its DERA grant. So the Diesel Emissions Reduction Act is now open for application, and it's going to be open until December 1st. So if you guys are thinking about applying, definitely get on that. There's 115 million available. So that's quite a lot of funding. I think, don't quote me on this, but it could be the most amount we've seen.
Yeah, but Taylor, the thing is with that is school transportation is also competing with a lot of other industries for that money. It's not exclusively for school bus. And also, emission reduction could be DPFs, DOCs, fuel-fired heaters. There's other technologies that can go on the school buses that people are using for DERA. Obviously, getting older diesel buses off the road is one of the things you can use the money for. So we've seen a lot of districts continue to apply for DERA money. But, there's always apprehension in the market. Like, is it worth it going through all the effort? And guys, you got to at least try to vie for these funds. They're there for you guys to make your fleets cleaner, more efficient. Definitely highly recommend jumping on it and take advantage. And then Taylor, we also have the EPA Clean School Bus Act, right? The deadline's coming up on August 22nd to apply for the $400 million. So there's a lot of action around that right now. Specifically, I'm hearing a lot of people reaching out to OEM partners, and the OEMs are like, we're so busy helping everybody else. People are kind of late to the game. If you haven't started, you better get on it soon because the window is closing rapidly, right, Taylor?
Yeah, I believe it's August 22nd. So, I've heard that the grant is a little bit more of a, challenging process compared to the rebate program. So there's a lot more paperwork. So if it's something that you haven't, done yet, I would definitely recommend getting on that as soon as possible because that deadline is rapidly approaching. And like we mentioned at the start of the episode, it's rapidly approaching in the middle of school startup. So hopefully you guys have planned ahead and you've decided if you're going to apply for that or not.
Yeah, they sure picked interesting timing to close the application process. I feel like if schools didn't have enough to do, they're tossing this on top of the pile. Goodness gracious.
Yeah. And we heard a lot of feedback about that at the EPA session we had at STN Expo. We had Michael Laughlin with the Department of Energy, Abby Brown with the National Renewable Energy Lab, and Grant Jones. He's a presidential management fellow at the US EPA. And a lot of people were providing feedback during the session. I think it was like 45 minutes of just questions from the audience. And one of the biggest things was like, hey, have you considered looking at this deadline and being like, it's kind of in the middle of school startup. And so I know that's been a big feedback from a lot of people, just being able to navigate the grant process while also doing their regular, job description duties.
Yeah, big takeaways there. Lots going on with alternative energy and green energy funding, especially as school districts really turn their mind to looking at the regulatory push and pull. They're coming to that realization that they're going to need to inject these types of vehicles into their fleet. It's just a matter of how soon. And, the gravy train probably won't last forever. So we need to take advantage of this $5 billion that they put out, and they're going to tranche out more money. There'll be more opportunities, but, lots of people are vying for these funds in the school transportation industry. So we'll see how this one shakes out, Taylor. It'll be very interesting. I know our friends at Lion Electric, we had mentioned last week that they opened up their 900,000 square foot manufacturing facility, largest electric vehicle manufacturing facility in North America. And they announced their Q2 earnings, and they recorded record revenue, $58 million, up $28.5 million compared to the $29.5 million from Q2 2022. So that was very interesting. They achieved profitability versus a loss. So that's always a plus too, right? They had delivered 199 vehicles, which was an increase of 94 vehicles compared to the previous year. So really good numbers from them. They are seeing an increase in school bus purchasing. Not surprising to see that is happening. So basically, they walked through kind of their order book and said that more than 1,400 vehicles are on the road with 14 million miles driven. That's a lot of miles. And that their order book had 2,559, so 2,559 electric medium and heavy duty urban vehicles as of August 2nd, consisting of 304 trucks and 2,255 buses. So I just assume those are all school buses. So yeah, that's really interesting. They had 12 experience centers, and they had a lot going on. 1,450 employees. I didn't realize Lion had that many employees. That is a lot of employees. So a lot going on there at Lion Electric, Taylor. So some interesting financial results. That's positive. Always good to see our partners succeeding and the market thriving.
Yeah, I would agree. And, Tony, in other positive news, we have a story on Willie Smith, who was the New York Association for Pupil Transportation School Bus Driver of the Year. So awesome news again. Go check out that story on him, but love sharing positive news.
Yeah, so if guys are interested in learning more about all those garage stars, everybody, you're interested in the maintenance topics, we got tons of that in that August issue. Go to stnonline.com, click on that magazine tab, go to August, check that out. You can read past issues as well if you want to catch up. I know you're super busy with school startup, and there's so much happening right now with so many people. But as you really consider what you're going to do for this new year, we want to wish you definitely a safe, successful startup. And we'd love to see you this fall at the TSD Conference. Again, November 15th through the 20th, tsdconference.com. Make sure and save with our $100 discount that's ending August 18th. So don't wait too long. I know school startup has got you busy, but definitely want to keep you focused and up to speed on all the latest special needs and disabilities information. and from all the experts. You got OTs, PTs, legal experts, behavioral experts. There's just so much technology in this area as well, Taylor, that, people need to be just dialed in on. You can't afford to be non-compliant, because that could equal a big fat lawsuit, and nobody likes those. Those are not very fun. So we want to make sure you guys are set up for success, and we're pumped to help you do that. So guys, I want to thank John Benish Jr. and invite him and Mr. Ryan Gray to the stage. Hey guys, we've got a great tech tip this week brought to you by IC Bus. You're looking for ways to improve your on-time performance and reduce operating costs? All IC Bus CE series school buses now come standard with factory installed telematics devices, including a 5-year connectivity subscription. Customers gain access to on-command connection, an industry-leading remote diagnostic solution, providing data that is visible and easy to understand and actionable. With OCC, your school district will have visibility to vehicle health and performance data at your fingertips, including EV-specific information like state of charge and estimated range. You guys can learn more about other standard capabilities of IC connected vehicles at icbus.com. That's icbus.com.
It's not every day that we get a Hall of Famer on the School Transportation Nation. And today is that day. John Benish, Chief Operating Officer of Cook, Illinois Corporation, the largest school bus contractor in Chicagoland. I call him the king of school bus. There's the king of sausages, and John is the king of school buses, at least in Chicago. John Benish, good to see you, buddy. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having us. How you doing?
I'm doing great, and you're doing great. So I mentioned a Hall of Famer. For those of you who haven't read our article on stnonline.com, John was inducted into the National School Transportation Association Hall of Fame last month in Pittsburgh at the NSTA annual convention and meeting. John, I joke here, but when I think of Hall of Fame folks, I think of like gray hair, you're old. You're like, in your 50s-ish. Young man still, but you've been in this industry for a while now. I mean, how long have you been in the industry? It goes back to when you were in high school or younger than that, right?
Yeah, no, and thanks. So actually, when I was probably younger than that, I just, a lot of good memories when my dad used to take my brother and I to his office on Saturdays, because he worked almost every Saturdays because we had a lot of charter work and field trips. And we used to go there as a kid. And then Tony and I used to have to cut grass, pick up garbage, wash buses, a lot of washing buses, a lot of graffiti removal. Got to learn a lot of new words when I was a young kid that I didn't realize. Taking off marker, fixing seats. Worked in the body shop for a while too. So I mean, technically in that, in more of a management role, it's, 31, 32 years. But yeah, as a kid, if you were in my family, you had something to do with a bus. My sisters worked there in high school and college, my brother and everybody that, friends and family and stuff. So somebody was always doing something in the yellow bus business. It wasn't always very glamorous, but it was involved in the yellow bus business.
But it was necessary. And before we get into, the reason why NSTA recognized you last month, for those of you who don't know, you mentioned your dad, the late, great John Benish Sr., was the patriarch of Cook, Illinois. Take us through a little bit of the history of the company and your dad.
Yeah, well, interesting. It's funny. I just got noticed actually today, his partner from back in the day passed away, Lee Stahl Sr. Mm-hmm. So my father is from the Southwest. My grandfather, his father used to teach at University of Texas, and my dad spent a lot of time growing up as a kid in Austin, great town, back in the day. His brother was a priest out there. But my dad met my mom. My mom was from the south side of Chicago, and they met at a wedding. My dad moved here. They started a date, got engaged, got married. He lost his job, and turns out that my grandfather or his father-in-law did the taxes for Mr. Stahl Sr., who was running station wagons and small buses for the city of Chicago and little small buses on the south side of Chicago. And so that's where he met Mr. and Mrs. Stahl Sr., who had only one son, Lee Jr., and they needed some help. They wanted to retire early. He was an only child. And so my father started with them together in like late 50s, early 60s. And sooner or later started to patch together some bus companies. And back in the day, it was almost all family owned and operated buses. I remember going as a kid to a couple conventions where there was hundreds of people, and most of them were families. So slowly but surely, they got a little bit bigger and a little bit bigger. And then my dad bought out his partner, Mr. Stahl, and it was about 89, 90. And that's kind of when we got started in the business. So it was late 80s, early 90s. And so from there on out, we began more of a management role, and then sooner or later bought my father out and, moved up and moved around. So that's kind of the quick story on it.
So, I was talking about, NSTA recognizing you, and, your dad, he led the company for decades, right? And he was a Golden Merit Award winner for NSTA. When did you really get involved? You said it was about 30 years ago that you really started in the management. When did you start getting involved with NSTA personally?
Really, that was, that again, not really involved, but I mean, as a child, that was our only vacation over the summer. They had a summer NSTA conference every year, and that was our big vacation, and that's where we went. So I remember as a child going to the, whatever they would go to, but probably like 20 something years ago, one of my mentors, Mr. Noel Berry, was a past president. One of the other people in Chicago, Terry Vandery, was a past president, and some other people, Mr. Page, and a couple of people from our company were also involved. So, if you hung around long enough in the yellow bus business, you want to, with the contractors and getting involved and, promoting the business and trying to do what's best for everybody and the children. So, yeah, slowly but surely. So probably about 20 years ago, we started to really, John, my brother-in-law, John and Tom, we used to go quite a bit and still do as much as we can.
Yeah. And of course, I mentioned your dad, he did pass away in 2018. You obviously learned so much of what you do today from him. Correct. And but what's some of the biggest lessons that you learned that he taught you over the years that you still do today?
Safety was always, a priority. Hiring the best people, that was big. He was big on organization, cleanliness. Still to this day, we have a truck that goes around to all our facilities and washes the bus at least once a month or once every 2 weeks. I mean, the tie that we wear, he, was big into that, dressing appropriately. And he really wanted to kind of elevate the business. So the drivers would be in uniforms. If you see back in the day, I mean, some of the drivers were beautifully dressed and, have an ID, do what you're supposed to, be on time, be organized. And really some of the other things that probably, that his group and really Chicago were the buses were the first, in Chicagoland area to have the first automatic transmissions. We were a bus dealer it was called Chicago Bus Sales. We were a Thomas and an IC dealer for almost 40 years. But the automatic transmission came out. We were the first to have all tinted windows on the outside of the bus. And lo and behold, he was one of the first people to use compressed natural gas in school buses. They were a leader in that. I think he just did it for, the cost savings, but it was, turns out that they were a pretty green company back in the day. And I'll send you some pictures, but we just got some old pictures out from a parade in the 70s where it says, talks about being a greener school bus company. And this was in the 70s. First company to use propane powered school buses. We just purchased the first 2 all-electric school buses and 2 right before COVID. First one's in the state of Illinois. So I think, his innovator, trying to think of something. My dad was, like me, would try pretty much anything once. And he had a lot of cool and different ideas that were out there. One of my favorite stories was that when we had a lot of snow in Chicago, which we do, my dad used to call this the war wagon. And what he would do is he would have a driver take them around to different schools, load up the inside of the bus with people like management, things like that, with snowballs. And they used to go around to the different schools. And if they got snowballs thrown at them, the war wagon would show up with a bunch of older people and start pelting the little children, which I'm sure nowadays you probably couldn't do that. But things like that were, pretty infamous with that. So he did do a lot of cool stuff that I don't think he has a lot of credit for, but some fun ideas.
Absolutely. And you were mentioning the alternative fuels. Cook, Illinois was one of the first purveyors of biodiesel. Mm-hmm. You had that. You mentioned the electric. Looking forward at what you've done and what, certainly you're a former president for NSTA 2019 through 21. COVID, you got that to fall on your plate. What were some of the lessons that you learned personally and professionally out of that experience?
Well, gosh, that was just plain scary. We just talked about that the other day because when we started and that came around, if you remember, it was kind of overseas. And then it came to the United States real quickly. And we'd sat around in a meeting and we said, gosh, this might be a week or two. Maybe schools are going to be off at least 2 or 3 weeks because, the children are sick. And what are we going to do for that time and things like that? But my gosh, it obviously spooled into this unbelievable story. And, we were so worried at the time. We were walking through our yards, all these school buses. One time they talked about schools never going back, that this is going to be kind of a permanent thing. Children are going to learn from home. The traditional school bus ride is not going to be happening anymore. So for a long time, it was just pure fear, and we didn't know what to do. But I will say the nice thing about NSTA, it really got people to rally. It was a kind of a ground place to go to. Just hundreds and hundreds of conference calls with, people in our company, people in the state, people around the country, conversing on what to do, how to do it, what's the best thing, how do we keep people employed, how do we keep, the hope that we're going to go back to school, what does NSTA do, how do we get our arms around this, what is the news story of the day, just like you guys were doing this on every 2 or 3 weeks. The stories were incredible. And then slowly but surely it got back to a different thing, and we were starting to go back to school. But I remember just literally being on the phone conference calls for hours and hours during the day, trying to figure out, what is the best tact and how we're going to attack this and how we're going to get ready for the next school year. So 2 weeks turned into over 2 years. And it's something that I think was probably the most shocking thing in our business, and hopefully the biggest and the last thing that happens, because it was, for me and for us. And that's all we had. Our school bus business is 98% of what we do.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. I think we were in contact quite a bit in those early days of COVID. Certainly. So John, for those of you who don't know, is also on our board of advisors for the TSD Conference, has been a big supporter of that conference since before we took ownership of it from Roseanne Schwaderer and EduPro Group. But you were on in the early days of our podcast talking, because at that point, as we all remember, the school districts were still getting funding and still being able to pay their employees. Contractors weren't. And you really took a leadership role. Of course, you were president, but you really took a leadership role in talking to lawmakers, testifying in Congress. You've talked about school bus safety, but really like leading that charge of like, hey, we need to make sure that we keep paying our school bus drivers and all the other employees so that when we finally do get to go back to school, that we have folks to actually provide service.
Exactly. And again, you're right. With the districts where, they sort of made it was an easier track for them because they could allow, and they still were paying everybody, even though they weren't working, they were paying most of their employees as if they were working. So I did rely on a lot of school district people. They're excellent here in Illinois, that we were also getting on a call once a week too, talking to them, seeing what they're going to do. But you're exactly right. We try to come up with some plans that if and when they do go back, that we can still tap into that core group. And we were lucky enough to keep almost everybody. We did have some people retire early and did lose some people like everybody else. But for the most part, we got through it okay. It's been difficult the last 2 years to hire. I'm glad to report this summer has been the best, I think, and talking to other contractors a couple weeks ago, at our conference, it's been one of the best summers so far, for sure, after COVID, as far as getting new faces and more people to work. And it wasn't just, drivers, of course, but management, techs, paraprofessionals, anything that surrounds the bus business. So, yeah, at the time, it was just plain scary. And the people that really shined were, like I said, the people I work with at NST were a huge help.
Well, and before COVID, I know that you really had spearheaded some initiatives within your company to address culture. You guys have done a number of things for your staff, and we've presented some of those things at TSD Conference. Talk a little bit about employee appreciation and how you value your employees, and what you do for them. I know you guys have like a wellness program, for example, that you've developed.
Yeah, in fact, we have our big wellness walk is coming up in a couple weeks, and it's going to be held downtown, actually, at Lincoln Park Zoo. So we have a full-blown, full-time wellness person that addresses not only physical health, but also mental health, which, turns out during these times is more important, if not very important. So we have a bus that comes around in the summer. We call it Vegetation Transportation, that sells fresh produce to our individual bus companies and our employees. We have full-time nurse practitioners still that do office hours at some of our bus companies, almost all of them now, and does things like basic physicals, helps things with pink eye, helps write scripts for their children if they can't get in, helps the vets make appointments. So we really think that the outside things that we can do to make anybody's jobs easier is what we're trying to do. I mean, being a bus driver or any type of stressful job that they're in is difficult enough. We also have some other things. We have some other health initiatives that we do just to try to make a little bit more fun, more palatable to come to work every day. And of course, constant cookouts. We're doing another one actually tomorrow for another something employees. My brother-in-law, John, he's an excellent cook and he's a good teacher. So we are constantly cooking and doing things like that. We also, getting back to the awards thing, perfect attendance bonus, perfect safety or safety bonuses. And again, we're going to send another 4 or 5 of our managers to your conference coming up, the TSD conference coming up in November, which is another great way to learn. And lastly, we just had Sue Trump come in and review our safety manuals, help us with some safety guidelines, and try to touch with our managers and our safety compliance officers on that.
Absolutely, yeah. Sue Trump, tenured faculty member for TSD. So hopefully we get to see you there too. I always love to see you in your. Of course. I always call him his salmon power pants. Whenever you see those things out, he's taking stage or he's going to be meeting and making deals. But talking about the school bus drivers, you are continue to hold a current CDL. You have. I mean, how long have you been driving a school bus now?
Oh, gosh, probably just as long as we've been here. One of the things with my father, which you brought up that I didn't mention, that he was very adamant about you have to start at the bottom. You have to do every possible job that everybody does in the company. You don't have to be exactly perfect at it, but driving is one of the basic things that almost everybody here has to do. I'm sure I'll be in a bus and a van in a couple weeks because we start school pretty early. But you have to get your CDL. You have to know how to route. You have to know basic inventory. You have to know how to dispatch. You have to know how to hire and fire, payroll, and those kind of things. So, who are we to tell people what to do if we've never done that job before? So, that was one of the things, too, that everybody is imperative that all the different jobs. And obviously, we're not here and we're not working unless we have enough people to work. And drivers are the backbone of all the companies. So we really want to make sure that we know what we're doing. And if we can help out with that, and we know how to, do the job, it just makes it easier to relate to everybody too. Yeah.
There's a wise man once said, I wouldn't ask anybody to do anything I wouldn't do myself. John Benish Jr., circa January 2014, that's when we honored you in the magazine after winning that previous fall at NAPT, our STN Leadership Award. Certainly, you walk that walk and talk that talk. It's been a good friendship that we've developed over the years. I hope for many, many more. I want to congratulate you. And it would be remiss of me not to mention that behind every good man is a good woman, the beautiful and glamorous Christy, your wonderful kids. So they, hopefully they take some time to celebrate this with you. And you guys have a good rest of the summer.
Great.
And I hope to see you very soon.
Yeah, we'll definitely be there. And we're looking forward to conference. Like I said, we just signed another 4 people up for sure. They're going to go to TSD conference in November. They're very excited. 4 people have never been.
Oh, that's great.
So I heard some really good things about the Reno and sorry to miss that. But yeah, it's been a very good, quick summer, and yeah, appreciate the nice words.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, John Benish, Hall of Famer, NSTA, Chief Operating Officer of Cook, Illinois Corporation in Chicagoland. Thanks again, John. Again, congratulations.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Fantastic conversation. Hall of Fame winner, John Benish. Congratulations again, my friend. Special thanks to Ryan Gray, Taylor Ekbatani. Thanks so much for sharing all the big headlines this week. Special thanks to our sponsors, TransFinder, IC Bus, and Safely. Guys, visit stnonline.com for all the latest news and analysis on the school transportation industry. You can listen to this podcast every week on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you listen to pods. Nation, we love you. We'll see you next week.